And so we talked about growing your appreciation for God's blessing. And the only way to really do that is to study it. This blessing started in Genesis and goes well beyond Revelation. It's an eternal blessing. It started in the Old Covenant. It's fulfilled and then maximized, or I can say amplified, in the New Covenant. Are you with me? In fact, there's no greater blessing that exists but the blessing of the New Covenant. So studying about it, and that's why here we are in May, pretty much this year, we've just been having our focus directed on the blessing. So you just keep it before your eyes and dig into it in your own personal time with God. But that's what it takes. You have to keep your focus on it. You have to study out, the promises, the benefits that are promised to you by God because of the blessing that you don't have to fight for. You don't have to try to get them from God. It's His good pleasure. He's already bestowed them. Whether a person will experience them, enjoy them, whether they'll benefit a person or not, is up to the person. Not up to whether the person is good enough. It's up to the person whether or not they will accept it, receive it, cooperate with it, or not. And the more you cooperate with it, the more you will maximize it. So I suggest to you, like we left off last time, you just, Psalm 103 is not the only place by any means. You get in the Word, and it talks about the benefits of the blessing. I mean, you go Deuteronomy 28, you can get into the New Covenant, Ephesians chapter, all of Ephesians. You get into all these places and start understanding that really God's promises are the blessing that are upon your life because He chose to put it there. But you gotta spend time focusing on it and then put it in your mouth. See, it's one thing to know, Lord, all your benefits, and I will not forget a one, that you forgive all my iniquities. Yes. That's with an S. Doesn't mean I'm trying to add to them or anything else, but you forgive all my iniquities. It's one thing to know that, focus on that. It's altogether different than to have it in your mouth. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing by the Word of God coming through your mouth to your heart. So that, like planting, you put faith in your heart, and like when you sow seeds, those seeds grow up so that your heart now becomes full of faith. So now in continuum of the cycle, out of the abundance of the heart full of faith, your mouth speaks faith, and things obey you and come to pass as God promised. It's indispensable. So you begin studying, you begin investigating, researching your benefits from the blessing, but then you got to put them in your mouth to get them in your heart, to have them come forward with power. Jesus said, if you abide in me, that's research and being in Him. See, Jesus is the Word. The Word is Jesus. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. And the Word became flesh, dwelt among us. So Jesus said, if you abide in me, that's spending concentrated time in His Word. But then He says, and. He didn't say because you abide in me then. He said, if you abide in me and. Say and. And my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it will be done to you. And people say, I tried that. No, not if you did, it worked. But because you tried it, you didn't believe it. And because you didn't believe it, it didn't work. So don't blame God. Just go back to the beginning and go beyond just thinking about the promises of God, knowing about the promises. Put them in your mouth and speak them to yourself aloud again and again. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing the Word of God come out of your mouth. to get into your heart. Okay, so that's the first step of maximizing God's blessing is highly appreciating it. And the process we just talked about right now is going to grow the appreciation you have for God's blessing. Okay? Got to spend a little more time with that, okay? See, what you talk about, whether you know it or not, consumes your life. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. As a person thinks in their heart, so are they. All goes back to the tongue-heart connection. You get things in your heart through your tongue, and then out of the abundance of your heart, your tongue moves. It's a cycle. Say cycle. So you ever notice how a person, the more they talk about something, they get more entangled with it, positively, negatively? I can never forgive that person. Well, now they just started, they're playing, see, that's going right. They heard them say that. I don't care that I heard it. They heard themselves say it. Nothing's more powerful than what a person hears come out of their own mouth. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing, not the minister tell you the word, but by you speaking that word out of your own mouth into your heart. That's what Romans 10 really paints out for us. That just makes me so mad. Well, I would control yourself, starting with your mouth. The only trouble you really got is with your mouth. Wasn't planning on going here. Check this out. Go to Proverbs 21. Proverbs is a book of wisdom, isn't it? Yesterday was the 21st of this month, so I was reading Proverbs 21 because there's one for every day of the month because it's the book of wisdom. And yesterday was the 21st, so I was looking in Proverbs 21. Yeah, I don't do it today because I work today. I live like this. Okay, so I was in Proverbs 21 yesterday. That's how I'm able to come talk to you about today. And look at verse 23. Whoso keeps his mouth and his, in case you don't know what God's talking about. You keep your mouth and your tongue. You are under no obligation to say what you think you should say. Feel like saying. Heard somebody else say. Why are you going to say what somebody else said? Whoso keeps his mouth, his tongue, that's a he or a she. What happens? Keeps his... There it is. You keep your mouth straight, you keep your tongue right, no problems. So if you were increasing your appreciation for God's blessing, what we were just talking about, you would just be looking at and talking about God's blessing. You can only think in one direction at a time. You can only, and when you speak, oh my goodness, that's the power of it. I didn't mean to get on this, but see, when you speak, that hijacks your mind. You cannot say one thing and think something else. And you can only think one thing at a time. So if you are doing the word, not being a hearer only, and so you're taking this word, the blessing, in your mouth, not sucking on it like a lifesaver, opening your mouth with it, having your mouth filled with it, you will hear and hear and hear yourself speaking the word of God. And faith will come into your heart. And then up out of your heart will come power, those faith-filled conversations. You forget trouble. That's what Proverbs is talking about. That's the negative side. But just keep your mouth. Just keep it. Just keep your tongue. No trouble.